What's going on, everybody? It's Anthony here, Commander Stick RC, back in my RC station again here today for another bench video. I have a couple more M2C prototype upgrades for the Xmaxx here that I'm super excited to share with you guys. So I'm going to give you guys a quick breakdown of all these parts and show you guys how this thing is set up. I just want to give a big thank you and big shout out to Mitch Looper and every looper from M2C Racing for sending all these amazing parts for me to test out. I really appreciate that, guys. These are such an amazing parts. I gotta hand it to M2C Racing, man. They've been pushing some amazing parts out here. For those of you guys that are looking for upgrades and trying to beef up your trucks, look no farther, man. Just go to M2C Racing, get some of these amazing parts. Their product speaks for themselves, guys. I have been running a lot of their upgrades on a lot of my trucks and I have no issues. They only just make your trucks even better, even stronger. So yeah, I'll put the link to their website in my description so you guys can check them out. Alright guys, so let's just dive right into this because there's a lot of parts here that I want to cover. Alright guys, so first up we have the newly revised ESC top mounting center brace here. This is pretty much exactly the same as what's already available on their website. I believe the only difference and the only thing that they did on this one right here is they added more hole patterns here just to give you more freedom, a little bit more option to mount your ESC. I think this time with the changes that they did, you can actually now mount your ESC a little bit farther down the plate, especially with the Max 5 and the XLX2. Since they are a little bit longer, a little bit bigger ESC. A couple of guys actually mentioning that they run into some clearance issues or fitment issues with the first batch of this plate, running a bigger can motor, a longer can motor, which is an 800 kV motor. So when Mitch originally designed this and sent it to me for testing, we were actually using an 1100 kV motor, which is a shorter can motor. I believe it's a 5687. So we have the Max 5 mounted a little bit closer to the motor, and we didn't really run into any clearance issues, any fitment issues. That's because we're using a shorter can motor. But for the guys that are actually running at 800 kV motor, they started noticing that the back of the motor started to hit the ESC here. So again, with this newly revised version here, you can now mount your Max 5 a little bit farther down the plate, so that way you don't run into those clearance issues or fitment issues running a bigger can motor. So that's the coolest thing about M2C Racing, guys. They're not only active and listening to their customers on social media, but they're very quick to make changes to accommodate everybody's different setups. So again, props to M2C Racing for that. That's a huge plus right there. So next up we have an M2C Universal motor back-end support bracket. This thing is super cool, looks pretty awesome. I love the machining on this. It's pretty solid, as you can see. So this right here will give a proper support in the back end of the motor. So let me just actually explain and elaborate a little bit about that. So here is the stock motor, as you can see right here, mounted onto the M2C sliding motor mount, and as you can see in the back, there is no support whatsoever. So what happened is that when you land from a big jump, there's a possibility of this getting yanked back down because of the force, because of the impact. And imagine if this is a big can motor, the 1100 kV or even the 800 kV motor, as it comes down from a big jump, there's a lot of possibility of it getting yanked back down. As you can see right there, there's already a gap, and that's something you don't want because that can actually create a lot of issues. You could actually strip your gears. There's also a possibility of your motor front plate getting damaged, and also there's a big chances of your motor mount getting bent backward because of the weight of the motor. So having a proper back end support is almost kind of necessary. So that is why I'm so glad finally M2C came up with something to properly support the back end of the motor, because I think it's necessary, to be honest with you. And plus, motor are not cheap, they are very expensive, guys. So it just makes sense to kind of go a little bit extra mile to properly support your investment, your motor. So again, props to M2C Racing for coming out with something like that. I have been wanting something like that to properly support the back end of the motor for quite a long time. And so basically how this thing is set up, guys, is you would put a screws in the back end and you just pretty much screw it in any holes that you preferred. There, guys, that's how you would set it up. So one of the coolest thing about this, guys, is that you can actually adjust this according to your gearing setup. So there's a lot of adjustability options here. And again, I mentioned that this is universal, so you can actually support just about any motor out there, stock motor, 1100 kV motor, or even 800 kV motor, or you could be running a different aftermarket motor mount, so this thing right here would still be able to support your motor. So as you can see, guys, this is pretty much what it would look like if it's set up in a truck. There's a shot in the back end. So props to M2C Racing for coming up with something like this. This is going to be something that I would highly recommend getting to properly support the back end of your motor. So that is pretty awesome right there. Alright guys, so here is the M2C Universal motor back end support bracket installed into the truck. That's how it would look like. Supporting my, I believe this is a 5892 motor that I have in here. So that looks pretty cool right there. Here's a shot in the back. So that looks pretty solid, guys. So that's awesome.